Innovation is essential, but so is retention. Up next, our panel on retention. Retention. Did we mention retention? We'll shed a light on strategies and best practices for keeping players engaged and loyal. Moderating this panel is Alexis, Wicén, CEO and founder at Unibo. Welcome up, guys. Join the stage. Give them a big, warm round of applause.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here today in the final hours of the day. I'm sure everyone is waiting and longing for the rooftop bar to open, but we have a few interesting talks left. I'm Alexis, I work with Unibo, we produce gamification tools, and why don't you guys introduce yourselves as well?
Sure, I'll start. My name is Ludvig, I'm the Director of Retention Marketing at LeoVegas. I've been in the gaming and gambling industry since 2008, so I'm a little bit of a dinosaur in this game.
And I'm Martin. Apologies to anyone who was at the last session. I've stayed on stage. But I work for an insights and strategy consultancy that specializes in tech and entertainment, and I lead our iGaming team. And I've worked speaking to players and bringing the players' voice to the fore for the last 10 to 12 years.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren. I'm the head of global promotions at Betsson Group. I've worked in retention for about 7 years now. I started off more of like below-the-line retention. So we're talking about player life cycle segments and one-on-one experience. And now myself and my team focus more on the above-the-line retention. So sort of the one-size-fits-all kind of approach that we will discuss. So promotions that are available for everyone. And that's me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Talbot, Chief Product Officer at LiveScore Group. So that covers LiveScore, our media brand, and then our betting and gaming brands in the licensed territories. And yeah, my teams look after product development, UX, design, and certainly a massive focus on retention and customer engagement. So yeah, really excited to get discussing.
Thanks. I mean, we have a great collection of people here who knows a lot about this in their various positions. How about we jump into why we're talking about retention? How come retention should be the focus and not as many other areas? Acquisition focus very heavily on that. And Ludvig, what do you think about retention and why should we focus on retention? Given you're the director of retention, you're probably very suited to tell us exactly why we.
I mean, first of all, retention is amazing. It's what brings our players back every day to have an entertainment experience with us. Sure, we can have any kind of welcome offer to get them to the door, but to make them stay, we need amazing retention. And I think here, when we use data, when we use creativity, that's the perfect mix. I mean, I love retention, so that's why I do it.
And Laura, what do you think from Betsson's point of view?
Yeah, I mean, retention is very important. You mentioned acquisition as well. So we know, we have to acquire the players to bring them in, but we also have to have good retention in place to make sure that we're making the most out of it. So what we need to look at is, we're acquiring players, but the player journey after there, we don't know much about that player, so we have to make sure that we're, captivating them. We don't want to then go in and start communicating every single day to them, right? And then again, we don't want to leave it like a week or two, and they don't hear from us, and perhaps they play elsewhere. So it's finding that balance of how to communicate to them, how often, and then the relevant offers and retention incentives as well. And I think what we tend to focus on at Betsson is we have our below-the-line CRM, which a lot of focus is put on that, of course. We're talking about the player experience, the one-on-one, and then we also have, as I mentioned before, what my team take care of is the promotions that are on site. So these are a whole range of promotions. So when a player joins, as I mentioned, we don't know much about them, but they can go on site and they have, several promotions they can choose from. So they can take free spins, bonus back, prize draws, prize drops. So there's still something there to retain them before we can learn enough about them to, make something which is tailored for them. So I think that's an important part of it as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think you spoke a lot about knowing your customer. I think, Martin, you know a lot about customers and studying customers and getting deep into learning more and more about customers. So what is it that customers really want in the end?
I try and make this coherent because it's obviously there's different player typologies and needs and wants, and that's obviously a big part to understand. I think just to go back a little bit, As an industry, we need to focus that actually retention starts at acquisition. So it's about understanding who you want your customer to be, target them in the right place with the right messages, that then when they join, the experience meets the expectation. Because if the experience doesn't meet the expectation, your retention is screwed from day one. So it's about starting and making sure that those teams are joined up. When it comes to what players want, there's like a meta theme that we've talked about a lot over the course of the last couple of days about personalization. Speaking to a slots player recently, it's a really good example. And he was saying when you come to an operator's site, there's all these tiles, there's new and exclusive, there's what's trending, there's the top, there's my recently played. You compare that to Netflix, it looks exactly the same. They have tiles, they have top 10, they had your last viewed, but the experience when it comes to personalization of what they're recommending is so much better from Netflix and other companies. It's not quite the same when it comes to the iGaming world. And then the other thing that players tell us a lot, it's about navigation and what they want, and that doesn't mean just how to navigate a site. That's about how to find games that you like, or markets that you like, or sports that you like, and having an operator that makes that easy. You've got so much data on people, on players, behind the scenes, but I don't think we do a good enough job in recommending the right types of games. And then just lastly on that, the other thing that players tell us a lot that's kind of missing right now is education. Like players have their favorite sports, they have their favorite games, but a lot of players are open to new games, but they need education on the rules, the mechanics, the features, because they're not going to engage. You don't bet on something that you're not familiar with. Why would you? That's just throwing your money away. And players operate and behave in that way.
I'm just going to add to that as well. I think the hand-holding of the players when we give them new experience is so important, because we sometimes believe that the player knows what to do. Sometimes they don't. So like having that hand-holding when we take them through bonuses or new experience is key, because then they have a good experience, they get that good feeling, and they come back for that. So I think we need to take care better of our players, look at the pain points, find the data where players drop off, and then cater for that. Not only with like new bonuses, but also by hand-holding or notifications to really tell them, do this and this and this, and you will get what we promised. And
it's not just saying it, Ludvig, because you're here, but LeoVegas comes up a lot when we speak to casino players in the guides that are on the site. And it's stuff like that. It's such an easy thing to do, but a lot of operators don't. Players want to understand rules, mechanics, features, whatever it is, so they're confident to try something out.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we know that a lot of players, when you ask them what's their favorite slot, is often the main reason for why they think that's the favorite slot is because they won big on it, or they understand how to win on it. If there's a slot or is a game that they can't understand, then it's something that they move away from and try something else instead. But as you said, data and personalization is the key, so that probably brings us into product. Product is, in iGaming, of course, everything when it comes to our sites. Product delivers everything. So, Sam, why don't you tell me a little bit more about how LiveScore and LiveScore Bet works with this?
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. I think, look, I think just to go back a bit, I think retention, even as we've kind of discussed now, we're all talking about numbers and metrics and offers and bonuses, and like, as an industry, I think we too often forget that there's actual humans at the end of this, and actually understanding what these customers want and why they use our product is, to me, the key to retention. It doesn't matter in the long term about whether you've got the most innovative bonus scheme or you've got this crazy loyalty program that no one else has. Like, yeah, that might drive retention in the short term, and you might see some good numbers month to month, but over time, are you really building any sort of true loyalty to your brand? I'd question whether that's the case. I think, you know, there's brands out there like Apple, like Netflix, where, you know, like they're doing things in a completely different way. Like, you wouldn't buy, I mean, we said this yesterday, like, you wouldn't buy a mobile phone, and this is a Simon Sinek quote, so that I'm stealing, but you wouldn't buy a mobile phone from any other computer company, but you'd buy it from Apple. Like, why? That, to me, that's retention. That's proper loyalty. That's building products in the right way that really kind of inspire people to buy into you, regardless of what product you use. And at LiveScore, that's certainly something that we almost embed across our entire strategy and way of working. Like, we talk about, convergence is our kind of business model, like building an ecosystem for sports fans across the world, regardless of whether they want content, news, scores, betting, casino. We're there for you as a football fan or a sports fan generally across the world. And that, to me, is how you really build products that drive real retention. And then, getting into the world of data and personalization, again, like we, as an industry, even as a digital industry outside of iGaming, I think we've made such a mess of the opportunity there. Like you imagine going back 20 years and saying, we will have the platform one day to be able to give you exactly what you want at exactly the right time, completely personalized to you as a consumer, and everyone going, ugh, no, block that. Like, that's literally what's happening right now, because we've completely forgotten about the customer experience, and we're so focused on data and personalization and innovation. So to me, that's really key. Like, we put a lot of focus on the customer and understanding our customers, and then really you don't have to be too creative. You want to build something that's nice, that's simple, that's easy to use, that solves real problems. And to me, that drives real retention.
So you talked about the right offer or the right service or for the right time, for the right player at the right time, right? So what kind of loyalty offers? I mean, it's still getting players into the door. People still use a lot of welcome bonuses, and a lot of sites look almost exactly the same. So how can we then keep players staying with loyalty offers? Ludvig?
Yes, I think it's about finding the right offer for the right player. This like blast or shot kind approach we had in the past, it just doesn't work anymore. And I also believe that removing pain points for the customer is super important. So we can continue to hit players with great offers, and yes, we will have uptake on them as well. But like, if we don't understand and look at the data and look at the product, as we have said, and understand what are the pain points here that we need to remove to make the players have a good experience, that's the key here. And then also work with the data to find, like, going to one-to-one almost, like, how do I trigger this player to do the behavior that I want them to do? And there's no, like, magic one offer to that. We have to work with the data to find it.
I definitely think it's bigger than promotions. It's bigger than offers. Like we see like 20% more retention on users that use both our media product and our sportsbook product. There's no offers. There's no, like, I mean, there obviously are offers, but that's not offer driven. That's because we're satisfying a customer problem, and that drives retention. And that's not anything particularly innovative or clever. It's just giving users what they want and being able to build that ecosystem and environment. I think that's really important. This next best action, this like using data to understand what's the next best thing to give that customer is much bigger than just a loyalty scheme or a promotion or a free bet, because that will drive the wrong behavior in the long term.
Yeah, it's completely echo that. We do a lot of kind of behavioral science with players to actually understand what drives players, and offers is the one that people think motivates players, but it doesn't drive anything when it comes to long-term loyalty. It's a very instant decision if they take that offer or not, but it doesn't lead to an engaging brand experience. And the other thing that we hear from players a lot is personalization, but you speak to table players and they get all these offers about spins. Like, if you know this is a table player and all they play is table games, you may want to push your new slot game, or you may want to convert them to live casino because that's your brand strategy. But look at the right players to do that. If they've only engaged with table, don't keep sending them free spins, because it's frustrating, and it's one of those things that's going to lead them to maybe lapse and churn.
I think what's important as well when we're talking about product and retention is the gamification elements. So what we're adding in addition to their gameplay. So we talk a lot about, beyond gameplay. And for example, at Betsson, we have our inbuilt tournament tool, which is available to all players. And then we can also use it, for a selection of players as well. So at any given time, if a player goes on site, there's an additional incentive for them to play. They can collect points based off, whatever they want to play. We can include all games in that. And that's a good tool for retention as well, in addition to, to our offers and other things.
I mean, we also see similar things in mobile games nowadays. It's a myriad of different things in the games that you can click and claim, and the small prizes everywhere, just the dopamine that comes in there, right? Yep. So maybe that's something that we'll see moving more forward in online iGaming sphere as well. But when it comes to games, like if we focus a little bit more on slots then, there's a lot of casino people in here, I think. How do you see different games affecting retention rates? Or, I mean, we talked about LeoVegas having guides and teaching players which games they should be playing or what they should be liking.
Yeah, I think it's important to nudge the players. Like, we have data on what would be a good game for this player type. And here, I think we have to step in a little bit firmer and nudge the player in the right way. Like, highly volatile slots might be great for some players, but it might be not great for other players. So here we just need to step in harder, I would say, and tell them, like, you should probably play this game instead. Because we want them to have a long, nice entertainment experience with us. Like, we compete against Netflix, video games, all these kind of other ways of spending their time. And if we drain their account with a bad experience in a highly volatile slot, it's not going to be fun. I'm not going to come back. But if we send them to a low volatility, feature-rich, nice slot, they will have an amazing experience. They will get all the dopamine and the stars and everything. That is how we create loyalty through a good gaming product as well.
I think the big challenge, I guess, as you enter into a global market is localization and understanding that different markets have completely different needs. And you don't, again, like, it doesn't have to be, you know, a big clever algorithm in the background. Sometimes you just have to do a bit of research and go, well, you know, in Africa, like, a crash game is going to do much better than a slot game, and like that's what we're going to go with. And so I think that's definitely something that I've seen start to come to the fore a lot more. Like, there's a lot more localization aspects to casinos than there used to be, and you can see the numbers, like, and the improvements that you get at a localized level when you start to think like that. And then obviously, like, I mean, this is going back a long time, but I remember we did an experiment with a casino when I was at Skybet. We did a Sky Vegas experiment where we had recommended games powered by an algorithm versus we just chose 5 games and put recommended games at the top, and we saw no difference in uplift. So I think you know, we don't have to jump to like the really clever solution all the time. Sometimes it's just a mindset shift that's creating that feel to the user that they're getting something that's a bit different. So yeah, I don't think it has to be this big fancy thing in the end.
I'm glad you mentioned localization, though. So it's kind of like the hot word at Betsson this year. So myself and my team, we work with lots of global markets across brands, and we're really putting an emphasis on localization. So we might have the same, you know, prize draw going out to Peru, Brazil, Iceland, but then we need to, you know, for example, you can play all games, you collect tickets, you can go in the prize draw, but it needs to be local for each market. So then when we're sending it to, you know, the Brazilian team to localize, we say mention games which are popular in this market, which appeal to your customers. Choose design as well, design that's relevant for them. So we've, you know, had a lot of focus on design at the moment, and we sort of felt like at the beginning of the year that perhaps some of our LATAM markets had more of a European feel. So that kind of can stop, you know, the retention efforts that we're doing as well. So there's a huge focus on localization. And when we are selecting, you know, our on-site promotions, as we deal with, obviously we have to select certain games. We can't have different games for every single player. But we tend to go for the games that are popular in that market. So we split it up per market. And, you know, the logic behind that is that the customers would recognize it with adding something additional to their gameplay. And, you know, we sell them as popular games. So if players have not yet played them, there's a reason why the others are. And we try and get them to start playing those games. So we see that works for us.
Yeah, great. We've talked a lot about promotions now and games and everything, but obviously, to keep the players at your site, you need to have very good services as well. You need to have great support, you need to have VIP handling, you need to have a product that doesn't fail, hopefully, and you need to have, if it does, the support can be there and help out. But which key areas do you focus mainly on there when it comes to retaining the player? Ludvig?
Yeah, I can start. I think high quality execution is the number one priority. I mean, I would prefer be triple QA a promotion before it goes out than risking to have a bad player experience. Like CS, they are amazing in taking care of problems, but we should do our utmost in hindering that, because we know that it's like 7 or 1 out of 7 players that actually contact CS, which means that the 7 others just rage quit and go somewhere else and play. And with such fierce competition, like, the quality aspect is so important for us. And then We have amazing CS staff to take care of the players that actually contact us, but that should be the rare occasion. We should execute flawlessly.
Yeah, I mean, the top tip from the frustrations that we hear from players very much echoes what you're saying. It's about when a player engages with customer support, understanding the context of their issue. You see a lot of like casino players, they've put a bet on, the internet drops, something happens in the game, they've lost that stake, they might have won, but they don't get the bet back. It's about understanding their issue and responding to it based on the context. There's a lot of different issues that come up in that issue. That's very frustrating. And they want an immediate solution, but I just want to know that they're going to get their money back or it's safe. It's just context is key when it comes to customer support.
I think it's important as well that, when they're contacting CS, they know that they are the first point of contact. They're the only people that the customers are usually speaking to. So they need to understand the bigger picture and also where to find the relevant information. So we focus a lot on QA as well. But we focus a lot on having, Jira pages updated with all of the relevant information, easy to understand, easy to access. So if somebody was to contact a CS agent, we can't expect them to know everything that's going on at once, but they can find that data straight away, and they know how to handle it, with the first contact resolution. So again, that comes down to training, and they need to know how to test it for themselves. If we're talking local markets, there should be test accounts available in all of these markets so they can go, and they should know how to handle it. So if it's an issue with a provider and the game's not working, how do they escalate that? How do they get that solved? And there's always somebody on call from our team as well. So if there is some error or something that's happened, it's not very common, but there's somebody 24/7 who can log on, who can fix this and resolve it. So we avoid any other customers, having the issue. And I think also it's important that the CS agents, that there's somebody who is available at that time who can compensate the player. So there's someone who can give them a bonus or a free spin, so they're not having to wait for the issue to be resolved and sit around, and we contact them a few days later. So that's important.
Yeah, I think for me, it's very easy to operate in silos within a company, and you have an amazing marketing campaign, but the product team don't know about it, or you release a new product, but there's no campaign attached to it, or the CRM email going out at the same time that push has gone out, and there's all these different fragmented experiences. And actually, as a user, you could open an app and you could tell the structure of the business based on the different steps of the journey that you go through and how different they feel and look. And I think that, to me, is the biggest area that we're certainly focusing on as a company, is trying to break down these silos all the way from planning right through to support and kind of dealing with issues, and not just issues, but feedback and research and all that kind of continual data and development that comes through. And I think having these cross-functional teams that get together, create strategies, have a fully kind of functional plan so that everyone across the various areas knows what's going on should be proactively mitigate a lot of these issues that we're talking about. And then, when the odd chance that actually there are problems and people do contact, then, like you said, having proper processes in place to be able to fix them quickly helps.
So good communication and a red thread all along the product to be able to keep the player engaged and keeping him happy or her happy, of course. So we're running shorter on time now, but how about the future? What do you think about AI and machine learning? Maybe Sam, you're probably being CPO, you probably know a lot about this.
Yeah, I think. I can see the number's gone red already, so I'll be quick. But I think, it's not going anywhere, right? So we have to understand how we best utilize things like AI. And when we say AI, everyone has a different view and opinion of what that actually means. But it could be as big a thing as the internet. It's not just something new that's come along and we plug it in. This is a complete revolution of the way that everything in the world works. And as an industry, if we're not at the forefront of that, then we're going to get swallowed up. So, I think it's not something to be scared of. I think it's not something to be worried about. I think it's something we embrace and we understand as an industry, and generally speaking, just as a population, how we enable opportunities through AI effectively. And that, to us, there's various different ways we can do that. I think the wrong way for me is to have specific AI teams that go off and figure out how to do things and then try and implement it across the business, because we've seen that in various different forms. Certainly I've seen that in my experience throughout the last 10, 15 years in the industry. We talked about innovation previously. You have innovation teams that come up with ideas and then try and implement them, and it doesn't really work. So I think for me, it's proper embedded strategy. And yeah, for sure, there's going to be massive opportunities around automation, around more efficient kind of ways of working, both internally and also to the customer. And then completely opening up new revenue streams that otherwise wouldn't exist. We're not even thinking about that. I imagine the majority of people here almost intrinsically link ChatGPT with AI. And it's we'll just type something in and something spits out. And it's a whole world that we have no idea about. And so I think tapping into that and finding the right people to be able to help understand the opportunity is key, and not jumping in blind. And then, I think take advantage of the opportunity rather than be scared of it, because it's not going anywhere, and we need to embrace it.
And Martin, you working a lot with customers, and obviously there's a wide range of different pain points for customers in terms of, and how can AI help there with in your work?
What we're doing at the moment, working with a lot of tech companies on how to implement AI, and echoes a lot. It's about understanding the guardrails and putting them in place, going slowly. When it comes to customers, it goes back to what we've talked about a lot. It's about personalization. AI can do things quicker and better than programs we have in place right now. So if we take the time to use the right tools, and all of us are grappling what tools to use right now, but if we can use AI to understand even more about our players, and in an even quicker time recommend offers, services, features that are completely tailored to them, that's going to make their experience better. And that's why we exist, right? We exist for the players. So personalization is where it's going to deliver the most right now.
All right. So we have 4 minutes left now. Do we have any questions from the audience, maybe, about retention or acquisition or anything? No questions? All right. Well, let's. Does anyone else have anything to add here?
I think just the final bit for me is to get your acquisition and retention teams talking, because if you get acquisition right, it makes your retention so much easier, because you've attracted the right players, they've expected something, and you've actually delivered it. We need to stop focusing so much on acquisition and performance marketing as a business, and make sure that journey for the player, like I said, that's the reason we exist, is to deliver to players' needs. Just join them up.
So basically...
Yeah, I think you're 100% right, and I think that journey continues. We look at that from a player life cycle perspective. We need to work together with product, with the gaming team, with CS, with everyone, with ops, just to have that, everybody in the room. And if you work with retention and you're not talking to these teams, elbow yourselves into that conversation, because otherwise they're going to do stuff that you're not aware of, you're going to do stuff that they're not aware of, and then it's just going to be a mess. So elbow yourselves into that situation, understand the player life cycle from A to Z, and then start to improve it. Remove pain points, improve the bonuses and campaigns that you do. There's so much that you can do in this kind of big area. It's not only about bonuses, it's about everything in the player life cycle.
I think it needs to be seen as well as something that's continuous.
Yes.
So it's not just something you set up and you leave it there. You have to continuously look at the data, change it up, analyze it. As you said, work with all the teams together. And I can give you an example. We work very closely with the devs who created our tournament tool, and we've launched it 3 years ago, as I was telling you before. But we still have bi-weekly meetings with them, and we're still continuously saying, what else can we do to improve it? Does anyone have any suggestions? What feedback have we received from the customers, from the players, to make a difference? And I think that is an important key, is just continuously look at how we can better ourselves.
Look at things from the player's point of view. Personalization, make sure everything is ready. Don't work in siloed teams, work together, everyone, and look from a player's perspective, and use the product yourself, I assume, is a good idea.
And localization as well. So, if you're operating in different markets, and let's say, for example, they have the currency sign after the amount, make sure that's how you're selling it to the customer, right? Make sure it feels local, they're aware that it's not, maybe a casino that's in local to them, but it should feel that way.
Yeah. I think for me, certainly, just to echo everyone's points around, collaboration and not working in silos, I think that's absolutely key. One thing that we probably haven't touched on is like looking around here and then the conference, like we've all worked at basically every brand in this industry between us. It's a very incestuous industry. We've all been around, like you walk up and down the conference hall and everyone knows everyone. And as an industry, like I don't think we do enough to really understand other industries and how they're driving the right sort of metrics around retention, loyalty, and that sort of stuff. And I think like that's a really big area that we're certainly trying to do better in, is like how do we build product, like what other brands, you mentioned Netflix, there's obvious brands like that, but there are other more niche brands in certain environments that are developing at a much quicker rate than we are as an industry, and I think that's something that we don't do enough of, I think, to tap into other markets.
Yeah, I mean, we are in an entertainment after all, and we have a lot of competitors outside of this house. Netflix, for example, takes a lot of time from everyone. Games, video games, mobile games, those are the ones that really are big competitors. Would you agree?
100%.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're running out of time here now. So thank you, panel. It's been a very good pleasure having you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.